Greeting. Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books, where we get a daily opportunity to associate with the liberated soul. Our founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, my Diksha Guru, my initiating spiritual master, who I met in 1972, came out of India for the first time, 70 years old. Never been out of India before. And he carried in his pocket 40 rupees. Not only was it not worth anything in America, you couldn't change it even if it was. So basically he came with nothing, except 2 or 3 trunks of books that he had translated and commented upon. The first 3 volumes of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, which we're going to read from now, first canto. And in 12 years, he went around the world 14 times after 70 years old. Just, it's hard to relate to unless you're my age, 73. So, yeah. And in the course of those 12 years, he stayed with us because he left in 77. He went around the world 14 times. Opened up 108 temples, exactly 108, which is an auspicious number, by the way. Initiated about 5,000 disciples, and wrote 70-some books. Yeah. And some of those temples were opened in India, which you might think is easy, but Indians aren't so. At that time, they didn't relate to Westerners very well, especially if they looked like us. They didn't trust us. So to get and we didn't have any experience at all at doing things in India, which is completely different, especially back in those days. But Prabhupada just, brought it all together and spread Krishna consciousness around the world like wildfire in 12 years. It's not humanly possible, actually. If you were with him, you could see. And yet, when he was doing it, he would just look like he was floating along. It was like an amazing experience. So therefore, I'm saying that we get an opportunity to associate with the liberated soul when we hear his books, because the sound vibration that came out of his mouth was filled with spiritual potency and can give realizations about deep philosophical concepts and understanding of the Supreme Lord, God, concrete, in all detail. And therefore we're very fortunate to be here. And I made a vow about 5 years ago to do this every single day for the rest of my life, no matter what. And I've kept it to this day anyway. Is that wood? Well. So we start out every day by reading a prayer that was a glorification of this book we're reading. He translated and commented on many books, but this was his magnum opus, his main work, the Srimad-Bhagavatam, the basis of all other levels of philosophy of this line of spiritual authority that we represent, that we're in. This is called the Srimad-Bhagavata Mahima Stotram, and it's from a book that was written by Srila Sanatana Goswami, one of the senior disciple of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which was the most recent appearance of Krishna on the earth 500 years ago. In India he appeared. And if you listen carefully, you'll hear why we are so excited about reading this book, and why everyone should be also. Okay. Srimad-Bhagavatam Mahima Stotram, and it goes like this. Sarva Shastra Vipiyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaya Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalidvan Dudita Ditya Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master, Srimad-Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya, Prema Varshakshadayate, Sarvada Sarvasevyaya, Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin, Madguru Man Mahadana, Man Nistadaga Madbhagya, Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Sadhu sadhu tadayin adini chochitakada hanamunchagadashin mam premna rit kandayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So this Srimad-Bhagavatam is a history of the universe, but it's the universe is very long. The time is very long. We're about 150 trillion years into it, and that means the total lifespan of the cosmic manifestation is 311 trillion years approximately, give or take a few 100,000. And so in that length of time, in 18,000 verses, the Srimad-Bhagavatam gives the essence of the history of the universe. Only the appearance and disappearance of incarnations of God, or moments where there really substantial changes happened in the universe, are given in the Srimad-Bhagavatam. Now we're at a stage where a couple of persons who were in the spiritual world made a mistake and were cursed and came to the material world for 3 births, and this is the first birth we're talking about now. And Krishna, the reason that happened was because sometimes Krishna likes to fight. Just like, you know, a father will sometimes sport with the son and wrestle with him and let the son win. And the son then the son feels, yes, I'm bigger than my daddy, you know, and like that. So nobody can mess with Krishna in the spiritual world. Nobody will want to mess with Krishna in the spiritual world, because everybody's a devotee of Krishna in the spiritual world. So sometimes, you know, when he wants a real good fight, he'll have one of his devotees come to the material world to give him a fight. So these 2 personalities, called Hiranyakasipu and Hiranyaksha, are the first 2 of the births that Jai and Vijay had to take before they could come back to the spiritual world. So now he came in the form of Varaha and killed Hiranyaksha, who was the brother of Hiranyakasipu. And Hiranyakasipu, even though they're devotees, but they came to the material world in order to feel inimical toward Krishna, so they could get so inimical towards him that he would fight them personally. Right? So Hiranyakasipu, when his brother was killed by Krishna, he became very upset. And he made a vow to kill Krishna, which is not possible, but that was his mentality. So he went to do austerities to gain the power to be immortal. So he did all these austerities, and he did more austerities than anyone had ever done in the history of the universe. And now Lord Brahma, who was the first created being in the universe, came there to see what was going on, because the effect of his austerities were that there was a heat emanating everywhere, just like the sun. There's heat everywhere. So this person was so powerful in austerity that there was heat coming from his head and spreading everywhere. And so Lord Brahma is coming now to see what's going on. And that's where we're starting. That was for you, Robert, and for you, my dear. Okay. Beginning with text 17 of chapter 3. Lord Brahma said, O son of Kashyapa Muni, please get up. Please get up. All good fortune unto you. You are now perfect in the performance of your austerities, and therefore I may give you a benediction. You may now ask from me whatever you desire, and I shall try to fulfill your wish. Purport. Srila Madhvacharya quotes from the Skanda Purana, which says that Hiranyakasipu, having become a devotee of Lord Brahma, who is known as Hiranyagarbha, and having undergone a severe austerity to please him, is also known as Hiranyaka. Rakshasas and demons worship various demigods, such as Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, just to take the post of these demigods. This we have already explained in previous verses. Text 18. I have been very much astonished to see your endurance. In spite of being eaten and bitten by all kinds of worms and ants, you are keeping your life air circulating within your bones. Certainly, this is wonderful. Purport. It appears that the soul can exist even through the bones, as shown by the personal example of Hiranyakasipu. When great yogis are in samadhi, even when their bodies are burned and their skin, marrow, blood, and so on have all been eaten, if only their bones remain, they can exist in a transcendental position. Very recently, an archaeologist published findings indicating that Lord Christ, after being buried, was exhumed, and that when he went, then he went to Kashmir. There have been many actual examples of yogis being buried in trance and exhumed alive and in good condition several hours later. A yogi can keep himself alive in a transcendental state even if buried not only for many days but for many years. Text 19. Even saintly persons like Bhrigu, born previously, could not perform such severe austerities, nor will anyone in the future be able to do so. Who within these three worlds can sustain his life without even drinking water for 100 celestial years? Purport. It appears that even if a yogi does not drink a drop of water, he can live for many, many years by the yogic process, though his outer body be eaten by ants and moths. Text 20. My dear son of Diti, with your great determination and austerity, you have done what was impossible even for great saintly persons, and thus I have certainly been conquered by you. Purport. In regard to the word nijita, Srila Madhva Muni gives the following quotation from the Shabda Nirnaya. Parabhutam vashastam chajitadpi uchate buddhahi. If one comes under someone else's control or is defeated by another, he is called jita. Hiranyakashipu's austerity was so great and wonderful that even Lord Brahma agreed to be conquered by him. Text 21. O best of the Asuras, for this reason I am now prepared to give you all benedictions according to your desire. I belong to the celestial world of demigods who do not die like human beings. Therefore, although you are subject to death, your audience with me will not go in vain. Purport. It appears that human beings and asuras are subject to death, whereas demigods are not. The demigods who reside with Lord Brahma in Satyaloka go to Vaikuntha Loka in their present bodily constructions at the time of the dissolution. Therefore, although Hiranyakashipu had undergone severe austerities. Lord Brahma predicted that he had to die. He could not become immortal or even gain equal status with the demigods. The great austerities and penances he had performed for so many years could not give him protection from death. This was foretold by Lord Brahma. Text 22. Sri Narada Muni continued, after speaking these words to Hiranyakasipu, Lord Brahma, the original being of this universe, who is extremely powerful, sprinkled transcendental, infallible, spiritual water from his kamandalu upon Hiranyakasipu's body, which had been eaten away by ants and moths. Thus he enlivened Hiranyakasipu. Purport. Lord Brahma is the first created being within this universe and is empowered by the Supreme Lord to create. Tenhe Brahma Rida Yadavi Yaadi Kavaye. The Adi Deva or Adi Kavi, the first living creature, was personally taught by the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the heart. There was no one to teach him, but since the Lord is situated within Brahma's heart, Brahma was educated by the Lord himself. Lord Brahma, being especially empowered, is infallible in doing whatever he wants. This is the meaning of the word Amoga Radhasa. He desired to restore Hiranyakasipu's original body, and therefore by sprinkling transcendental water from his water pot, he immediately did so. Text 23. As soon as he was sprinkled with the water from Lord Brahma's water pot, Hiranyakasipu arose, endowed with a full body, with limbs so strong that they could bear the lightning of the thunderbolt, the striking of the thunderbolt. With physical strength and a bodily luster resembling molten gold, he emerged from the anthill, a completely young man, just as fire springs from fuel wood. Purport. This would be quite a blockbuster, right? We could do a blockbuster about it, right? Hiranyakasipu was revitalized, so much so that his body was quite competent to tolerate the striking of thunderbolts. He was now a young man with a strong body and a very beautiful bodily luster resembling molten gold. This is the rejuvenation that took place because of his severe austerity and penance. Text 24. Seeing Lord Brahma present before him in the sky, carried by his swan airplane, Hiranyakasipu was extremely pleased. He immediately fell flat with his head on the ground and began to express his obligation to the Lord. Purport. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 9:23 and 24, Ye pyanya devada bhakta yajante shadayan vitaha tepimam evakonteya yajanta vidipurvakam ahang hi sarva yagyanam bhokta cha prabodeva cha natumam abhijananti tatpinatas jibanti te. Whatever a man may sacrifice to other gods, O son of Kunti, is really meant for me alone, but it is offered without true understanding. I am the only enjoyer and the only object of sacrifice. Those who do not recognize my true transcendental nature fall down. In effect, Krishna says, persons engaged in the worship of demigods are not very intelligent, although such worship is indirectly offered to me. For example, when a man pours water on the leaves and branches of a tree without pouring water on the root, he does so without sufficient knowledge or without observing regulative principles. The process of watering the tree is to pour water on the root. Similarly, the process of rendering service to different parts of the body is to supply food to the stomach. The demigods are, so to speak, different officers and directors in the government of the Supreme Lord. One has to follow the laws made by the government, not by the officers or directors. Similarly, everyone is to offer his worship to the Supreme Lord only. That will automatically satisfy the different officers and directors of the Lord. The officers and directors are engaged as representatives of the government. and to offer some bribe to the officers and directors is illegal, unless you're in India. Oh, it's still Indian. It's still illegal. This is stated in Bhagavad Gita as avidi purvakam. In other words, Krishna does not approve the unnecessary worship of the demigods. In Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly stated that there are many types of yajna performances recommended in the Vedic literatures, but actually all of them are meant for satisfying the Supreme Lord. Yajna means Vishnu. The word yajna, for those who are new, means sacrifice. In the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly stated that one should work only for satisfying yajna or Vishnu. The perfectional form of human civilization, known as Varnashram Dharma, is specifically meant for satisfying Vishnu. Therefore Krishna says, I am the enjoyer of all sacrifices because I know I am the Supreme Master. However, less intelligent persons, without knowing this fact, worship demigods for temporary relief or benefit. Therefore they fall down to material existence and do not achieve the desired goal of life. If, however, anyone has any material desire to be fulfilled, he had better pray for it to the Supreme Lord, although that is not pure devotion, and he will thus achieve the desired result. Although Hiranyakasipu offered his obeisances unto Lord Brahma, he was strongly inimical toward Lord Vishnu. This is the symptom of an asura. Asuras worship the demigods as being separate from the Lord, not knowing that all the demigods are powerful because of being servants of the Lord. If the Supreme Lord were to withdraw the powers of the demigods would no longer be able to offer benedictions to their worshippers. The difference between a devotee and a non-devotee, or asura, is that a devotee knows that Lord Vishnu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and that everyone derives power from him. Without worshipping the demigods for particular powers, a devotee worships Lord Vishnu, knowing that if he desires a particular power, he can get that power while acting as Lord Vishnu's devotee. Therefore, in the Shastra, Bhagavatam 2.3.10, it is recommended, akama sarvakamo va mokshakama udara dihi tivrina bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. A person who has broader intelligence, whether he be full of material desires, free from material desires, or desiring liberation, must by all means worship the Supreme Whole, the Personality of Godhead. Even if a person has material desires, instead of worshipping the demigods, he should pray to the Supreme Lord so that his connection with the Supreme Lord will be established and he will be saved from becoming a demon or a non-devotee. In this regard, Srila Madhvacharya gives the following quotation from the Brahmatarka. Ekastanaika karyat vad Vishnu pradhanyatas tata jivasya tat adinat man na binadit kritam vachaha. Since Vishnu is the Supreme, by worshipping Vishnu, one can fulfill all one's desires. There is no need to divert one's attention to any demigod. Text 25. Then, getting up from the ground and seeing Lord Brahma before him, the head of the Daityas was overwhelmed by jubilation. With tears in his eyes, his whole body shivering, he began praying in a humble mood, with folded hands and a faltering voice, to satisfy Lord Brahma. Text 26 and 27. Hiranyakasipu said, "Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord within this universe. At the end of each day of his life, the universe is fully covered with dense darkness by the influence of time. And then again, during his next day, that self-effulgent Lord, by his own effulgence, manifests, maintains, and destroys the entire cosmic manifestation through the material energy, which is invested with the three modes of material nature. He, Lord Brahma, is the shelter of those modes of nature, Sattva-guna, Rajoguna, and Tamaguna. Purport. The words Abhiyanag Jagat Idam refer to him who creates this cosmic manifestation. The original creator is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, Janmad Yasya Yataha. Lord Brahma is the secondary creator. When Lord Brahma is empowered by Lord Krishna as the engineer to create the phenomenal world, he becomes the supremely powerful feature within this universe. The total material energy is created by Krishna, and later, taking advantage of all that has necessarily been created, Lord Brahma engineers the entire phenomenal universe. At the end of Lord Brahma's day, everything up to Swargaloka is inundated with water, and the next morning, when there is darkness in the universe, Brahma again brings the phenomenal manifestation into existence. Therefore, he is described here as he who manifests this universe. Trin Gunan Vrinoti. Lord Brahma takes advantage of the three modes of material nature. Prakriti, material nature, is described here as Trivrita, the source of the three material modes. Srila Madhvacharya comments in this connection that Trivrita means Prakritya. Thus Lord Krishna is the original creator and Lord Brahma is the original engineer. Text 28. I offer my obeisances to the original personality within this universe, Lord Brahma, who is cognizant and who can apply his mind and realized intelligence in creating this cosmic manifestation. It is because of his activities that everything within the universe is visible. He is therefore the cause of all manifestations. Purport. The Vedanta Sutra begins by declaring that the Absolute Person is the original source of all creation. Janmad Yasya Yataha. One may ask whether Lord Brahma is the Supreme Absolute Person. No, the Supreme Absolute Person is Krishna. Brahma receives his mind, intelligence, materials, and everything else from Krishna. And then he becomes the secondary creator, the engineer of this universe. In this regard, we may note that the creation does not take place accidentally because of the explosion of a chunk. Such nonsensical theories are not accepted by Vedic students. The first created living being is Brahma, who is endowed with perfect knowledge and intelligence by the Lord. As stated in Srimad-Bhagavatam, Tene Brahma Rida Yaadi Kavaye. Although Brahma is the first created being, he is not independent, for he receives help from the Supreme Personality of Godhead through his heart. There is no one but Brahma at the time of creation, and therefore he receives his intelligence directly from the Lord through the heart. This has been discussed in the beginning of Srimad-Bhagavatam. Lord Brahma is described in this verse as the original cause of the cosmic manifestation, and this applies to his position in the material world. There are many, many such controllers, all of whom are created by the Supreme Lord, Vishnu. This is illustrated by an incident described in Chaitanya Charitamrita. When the Brahma of this particular universe was invited by Krishna to Dwaraka, he thought that he was the only Brahma. Therefore, when Krishna inquired from his servant which Brahma was at the door to visit, Lord Brahma was surprised. He replied that of course Lord Brahma, the father of the 4 Kumaras, was waiting at the door. Later, Lord Brahma asked Krishna why he had inquired which Brahma had come. He was then informed that there are millions of other Brahmas because there are millions of universes. Krishna then called all the Brahmas who immediately came to visit him. The Chaturmukha Brahma, the 4-headed Brahma of this universe, thought himself a very insignificant creature in the presence of so many Brahmas with so many heads. Thus, although there is a Brahma who is the engineer of each universe, Krishna is the original source of them all. 29. Your Lordship, being the origin of the life of this material world, is the master and controller of the living entities, both moving and stationary. And you inspire their consciousness. You maintain the mind and the acting and knowledge-acquiring senses, and therefore you are the great controller of all the material elements and their qualities, and you are the controller of all desires. So he's worshipping Lord Brahma as God. Purport. In this verse it is clearly indicated that the original source of everything is life. Brahma was instructed by the Supreme Life, Krishna. Krishna is the Supreme Living Entity. Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Techananam. Kata Upanishad 2.2.13. And Brahma is also a living entity. But the original source of Brahma is Krishna. Therefore, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 7.7, Mattak Paradanam Nanyat Kinchidasti Dhananjaya. O Arjuna, there is no truth superior to me. Krishna is the original source of Brahma, who is the original source of this universe. Brahma is a representative of Krishna, and therefore all the qualities and activities of Krishna are also present in Lord Brahma. Text 30. Movie star. Anyway, my dear Lord, by your form as the Vedas personified, and through knowledge relating to the activities of all the Yajnik Brahmanas, you spread the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies of the 7 kinds of sacrifices, headed by Agnishtoma. Indeed, you inspire the Yajnik Brahmanas to perform the rituals mentioned in the 3 Vedas. Being the Supreme Soul, the Super Soul of all living entities, you are beginningless, endless, and omniscient, beyond the limits of time and space. Purport. The Vedic ritualistic ceremonies, the knowledge thereof, and the person who agrees to perform them are inspired by the Supreme Soul. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Mattak Parat Mattak Smritir Jnanam Apavanam Cha. From the Lord come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. The Super Soul is situated in everyone's heart. Sarvasya chaham hriti sanavishtak ishwarak sarvabhutanam riddhasherjanatishthati. And when one is advanced in Vedic knowledge, the Super Soul gives him directions. Acting as the Super Soul, the Lord gives inspiration to a suitable person to perform the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. In this connection, 4 classes of priests known as Ritvik are required. They are mentioned as Hota, Advarya, Brahma, and Udgata. Text 31. O my Lord, your Lordship is eternally awake, seeing everything that happens. As eternal time, you reduce the duration of life for all living entities through your different parts, such as moments, seconds, minutes, and hours. Nonetheless, you are unchanged, resting in one place as the Supersoul, Witness, and Supreme Lord, the birthless, all-pervading controller who is the cause of life for all living entities. Purport. In this verse, the word kutastha is very important. Although the Supreme Personality of Godhead is situated everywhere, He is the central unchanging point. Ishwarat, Sarvabhutanam, Riddhishar Janatishtati. The Lord is situated in full in the core of everyone's heart. As indicated in the Upanishads by the word ekatvam. Although there are millions and millions of living entities, the Lord is situated as the Supersoul in every one of them. Nonetheless, He is one in many. As stated in the Brahma Samhita, Advaitam Achyutam Anadam Ananta Rupam, He has many forms, yet they are Advaita, one, and unchanging. Since the Lord is all-pervading, He is also situated in eternal time. The living entities are described as parts and parcels of the Lord, because He is the life and soul of all living entities, being situated within their hearts as the Antaryami, as enunciated by the philosophy of inconceivable oneness and difference, Achintya Bheda. Since the living entities are part of God, they are one in quality with the Lord, yet they are different from Him. The Supersoul, who inspires all living entities to act, is one and changeless. There are varieties of subjects, objects, and activities, yet the Lord is one. Text 32. There is nothing separate from you, whether it be better or lower, stationary or moving. The knowledge derived from the Vedic literatures like the Upanishads and from the sublimbs of the original Vedic knowledge form your external body. You are Hiranyagarbha, the reservoir of the universe, but nonetheless, being situated as the Supreme Controller, you are transcendental to the material world, which consists of the three modes of material nature. Purport. The word param means the supreme cause, and aparam means the effect. The supreme cause is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the effect is material nature. The living entities, both moving and non-moving, are controlled by the Vedic instructions in art and science, and therefore they are all expansions of the external energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the center as the Supersoul. The Brahmandas, the universes, exist during the duration of a breath of the Supreme Lord. Yas yaika nish vashitakalam atavalambya jivanti loma bilaja jagadandanataha. Thus they are also within the womb of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Mahavishnu. Nothing, therefore, is separate from the Supreme Lord. This is the philosophy of Achintya Bheda Tattva. So the indication of that is quite profound. Mata Datta Pita Maha. In the Gita, Krishna explains that He's the mother and the father. How can someone be the mother and the father? Because within the body of Krishna, all the information content for everything else is contained. Text 33, therefore the source of everything can't be a lump or a light or nothing, or particularly me. 33, O my Lord, being changelessly situated in your own abode, You expand your universal form within this cosmic manifestation, thus appearing to taste the material world. You are Brahman, the Supersoul, the oldest, the personality of Godhead. So this is the bewildered state of a demon. He's thinking that Brahma is the Supreme Lord, although the source of Brahma is the Supreme Lord. Purport. It is said that the Absolute Truth appears in three features, namely impersonal Brahman, localized Supersoul, and ultimately the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. The cosmic manifestation is the gross material body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who enjoys the taste of the material mellows by expanding his parts and parcels, the living entities, who are qualitatively equal with him. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, however, is situated in the Vaikuntha planets, where he enjoys the spiritual mellows. Therefore, the one absolute truth, Bhagavan, pervades all by his material cosmic manifestation, the spiritual Brahman effulgence, and his personal existence as the Supreme Lord. Text 34. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme, who in his unlimited, unmanifested form has expanded the cosmic manifestation, the form of the totality of the universe. He possesses external and internal energies, and the mixed energy called the marginal potency, which consists of all living entities. Purport. The Lord is endowed with unlimited potencies. Pradasya Shaktir Vibhidaiva Shuyate, which are summarized as three, namely external, internal, and marginal. The external potency manifests this material world. The internal potency manifests the spiritual world. And the marginal potency manifests the living entities, who are mixtures of internal and external. The living entity, being part and parcel of Parabrahman, is actually internal potency. But because of being in contact with the material energy, he is an emanation of material and spiritual energies. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is above the material energy and is engaged in spiritual pastimes. The material energy is only an external manifestation of his pastimes. Text 35. O my Lord, O best of the givers of benediction, if you will kindly grant me the benediction I desire, please let me not meet death from any of the living entities created by you. So Brahma's already indicated that you can't get immortality. Now Brahma, because he's a demon, he's going to try to trick Brahma into giving him immortality by getting benedictions that will give him conditions that, if they were to be fulfilled, would give him immortality. Purport. After being created from the navel of Garbhodakashai Vishnu, Lord Brahma, the original created living being within the universe, created many other different types of living entities to reside in this universe. Therefore, from the beginning of creation, the living entities were born of a superior living entity. Ultimately, Krishna is the supreme living being, the father of all others. Aham bija prada pita. He is the seed-giving father of all living entities. Thus far, Hiranyakasipu has adored Lord Brahma as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and is expected to become immortal by the benediction of Lord Brahma. Now, however, having come to understand that even Lord Brahma is not immortal, because at the end of the millennium, Lord Brahma will also die, Hiranyakasipu is very carefully asking him for benedictions that will be almost as good as immortality. His first proposal that he not be killed by any of the different forms of living entities created. I'm sorry, the first proposal is that he is not to be killed, that he not be killed by any of the different forms of living entities created by Lord Brahma within this material world. Text 36. Grant me that I not die within any residence or outside any residence, during the daytime or at night, nor on the ground or in the sky. Grant me that my death not be brought about by any being created by someone other than you, nor by any weapon, nor by any human being or animal. He's narrowing it down here. Purport. Hiranyakasipu was very much afraid of Vishnu's becoming an animal to kill him, because his brother had been killed by Vishnu when the Lord took the form of a shape of a boar. He was therefore very careful to guard against all kinds of animals. But even without taking the shape of an animal, Vishnu could kill him by hurling his Sudarshan chakra, which can go anywhere without the Lord's physical presence. Therefore, Hiranyakasipu was careful to guard against all kinds of weapons. He guarded against all kinds of time, space, and countries, because he was afraid of being killed by someone else in another land. There are many other planets, higher and lower, and therefore he prayed for the benediction of not being killed by any resident of any of these planets. There are three original deities, Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara. Hiranyakasipu knew that Brahma would not kill him, but he also wanted not to be killed by Lord Vishnu or Lord Shiva. Consequently, he prayed for such a benediction. Thus, Hiranyakasipu thought himself securely protected from any kind of death caused by any living entity within the universe. He also carefully guarded against natural death, which might take place within his house or outside of the house. Grant me that I not meet death from any entity, living or non-living. Grant me further that I not be killed by any demigod or demon, or by any great snake from the lower planets. Since no one can kill you in the battlefield, you have no competitor. Therefore, grant me the benediction that I too may have no rival. Give me sole lordship over all the living entities and presiding deities, and give me all the glories obtained by that position. Wow, this guy's got some ambition here. Furthermore, give me all the mystic powers attained by long austerities and the practice of yoga, for these cannot be lost at any time. Purport. Lord Brahma obtained his supreme position due to long austerities and penances, mystic yoga, meditation, and so on. Hiranyakasipu wanted a similar position. The ordinary powers achieved by mystic yoga, austerities, and other processes are sometimes vanquished, but the powers obtained by the mercy of the Lord are never vanquished. Hiranyakasipu therefore wanted a benediction that would never be vanquished. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to the 7th canto, 3rd chapter of Srimad-Bhagavatam, entitled Hiranyakasipu's Plan to Become Immortal. Okay, last word. So, that's the end of the reading for tonight. And we have a special session called Open Mic. We have a little mic here, but it's connected with a wire. maybe later on this month we'll get not wireless mics. But anybody who heard something that stuck in their minds and they want to reflect upon, or that they wanted to have more discussion on, or they want to inquire about, please be our guest. Oh, you have the first question? No? Well, okay. We keep waiting for that question out of you. It'll be a good one. I know eventually when it comes out, it'll be a good one. Yes, Pranati Karuna.
Thank you. Well, it struck me just hearing that the absolute truth appears in three forms: impersonal, Brahman, and localized Paramatma, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But then also, I can't remember exactly, maybe if you wouldn't mind elaborating, I think maybe in the introduction of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, I think it's broken down that you can see you can talk about God as the controller, but then the absolute truth. I can't remember exactly where it is.
Mm-hmm.
But would you mind saying something about that?
Chaitanya Charitamrita. Introduction. Yeah, he's asking the question of what's the difference between God and the absolute truth, basically. So, it's definitely not him. Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to disappoint you. Anyway, so the concept of God means controller, and in one sense, each one of us can be considered little gods, because we're all controlling something, Even you see, a person on the street that doesn't have anything, he's got a basket that he, and it's got all of his things in it, and he goes from one place to another. Or, everybody has got something, even the sages in the forest, they've got something. So everybody's controlling something. And the Supreme Controller is the controller of all the other controllers. That's the Supreme God. But the Absolute Truth is all of those things put together. So when you realize the Absolute Truth, then you're able to see God everywhere. But not that you think that this individual thing is God in the sense of being the source of everything else. Because that's the Absolute Truth, is the source of everything else. Not just the controller, but the source of everything. Janmad yasya yataha. The Absolute Truth is the source of everything. And we had some different, explanations in these purports that we just read, in which Hiranyakasipu was worshipping, Lord Brahma as God, because he wanted to get something that only God could give. And therefore he was trying to, figure out how he could get what he wanted from Lord Brahma. But because Krishna is the Supreme Absolute Truth, he's everything, and at the same time, he's the source of everything. So I think for those of you who are new and haven't heard much about this philosophy, one thing that you should consider deeply is that all the different spiritual teachings in the history of the world, from the real revealed scriptures, not some harebrained scheme that somebody just made out of their mind, but that's why they call it the gospel. The Bible call it the gospel. The Quran is these are serious scriptures. They came from a revelatory, revealed knowledge coming from somebody who was deeply realized and connected, But each one of those scriptures has a source, a beginning in time, You can trace the beginning of the Bible with Jesus Christ, or the beginning from previous lines of authority from him spiritually. But you can't trace the source of the Vedas. Veda means knowledge in Sanskrit. So, therefore, the difference between the knowledge contained in the Srimad-Bhagavatam, which we're reading today, which is the essence of all the Vedas, is that the descriptions of the Absolute Truth, the descriptions of God, are very concrete, explicit, and comprehensive. In other words, you can't know everything about God because He's unlimited, and we're limited. But we have the capacity to know enough about God, because we're part of God, that we will be able to recognize Him, first of all, when we see Him, or hear about Him, and therefore we will have the capacity to want to know Him and want to love Him to the degree fully that He will want to see us and He'll take us back to Him. So there's a level of detail in these scriptures there's some thread. I remember before I came to this movement, before I started reading Prabhupada's books, I was reading all these different spiritual books, and I think we all did this before we joined. And there was a thread. I saw a thread running through it all that kind of tied it together. So and that kept me going, But I could never. None of the books that I read, and none of the persons I was talking to about Him, would tie it up and put it concretely so that I can understand exactly who or what God was. It was always just an abstract principle, So this makes spiritual life tangible and real. And, it's so deep that the more we hear, the more the capacity to hear grows, and the more the information grows deeper, and there's no limit to it. That's the absolute truth. The difference between the concept of God or controller and the absolute truth. We got somebody in cyberspace. Okay.
Vijay Lakshmi says, please accept my humble obeisances.
Jai Ho, Vijay Lakshmi.
I was under the impression that even demigods are living entities of the marginal energy, and therefore at the time of annihilation everything goes back into Garbhodakshai Vishnu. Then how is that mentioned here that demigods do not die and instead go to Vaikuntha? I'm a bit confused.
It's not talking about all the demigods. It's talking about Lord Brahma and those persons who attain his planet. They go back when the Brahma dies. He goes back to the spiritual world, and those who are living on his planet go back with him. But we have information from our previous acharyas that isn't always the case, but that was the case in this particular universe, this particular Brahma that we're talking about in the Bhagavatam. But depending on how Lord Brahma attained his position, that determines whether or not his followers also have to go back into Garbhodakshai Vishnu and then come out again in the next creation. But the Brahma of this universe in this kalpa, or this millennium, is a pure devotee of Krishna. And therefore he goes back to the spiritual world, and everyone who's there with him in Brahmaloka goes back with him. But all the other demigods, they get drawn back into the body of Garbhodakshai Vishnu. And Mahavishnu, eventually. Because Garbhodakshai Vishnu also comes from Mahavishnu.
He said thank you.
Hare Krishna. Welcome. You're welcome. Hey Robert, how you doing?
I feel overwhelmed right now, really.
Whoa, that's a good sign. Welcome to the club. Yeah, this knowledge is amazing because I've been reading these books for 47 years. It's a long time.
It's a long time.
Yeah. And each time I read, it's like I read it for the first time. That I'm really lucky that I feel like that.
It's a lot of information.
Yeah. Yeah. And we only read like what, 15, 16 verses. We stopped at 37 and we started at 17, 20 verses. 18,000 verses in this book.
It's a lot of information in just 20 verses.
Yes. Yeah. Anyway, so it's, yeah, the water is fine. Come on in.
Just getting started.
Yeah. You have some questions? No?
It's just like it's not really a question, it's more like a connection to something that I was.
You're going to reflect. That's
Yeah.
just what we want. Go ahead. This is just what we want. We're looking for reflections.
Okay, so you know how it says basically like main, like God, right? And then.
Say your name to the people out there in cyberspace.
My name is Kelly.
Okay, Kelly.
So basically where it says like that there is a main Godhead, like, you know, like God, like the source, and then everything else is like God exists in it, but it's not the, you know, it's not like that central, like.
You're getting it. Go ahead. Keep going.
So that's kind of like us, right? It doesn't really have to be like, it's like, although they say, yeah, like we talked about it last time, like we all are one, but we're not, you know what I mean? We're not like.
The Supreme One.
Yeah, the Supreme, like God Himself.
Yes, we're parts of God. It's like the sun is emanating photons, and the sunshine is not just one homogeneous thing. It's made up of individual photons, and sometimes you can see if you're looking through the screen and it's just the right light, you can see little things going up like this. You can see the photons with the naked eye sometimes, because a certain number of molecules together are visible under certain conditions. So each one of those photons puts out heat and light. And the sun is putting out heat and light, but the quantity is a little different. So we're like that. We're emanations from God, and therefore we have, the qualities of God, but in a very, very minute quantity. Therefore, the ultimate philosophy, spiritual philosophy, or devotional understanding is not whether God is, one or different or the same or whatever. It's all that put together. He's simultaneously one with everything and different from everything, inconceivably. And once we get that in our understanding, it just makes everything more clear. And when we assimilate this knowledge, actually assimilate it, then our quality of our life changes, the quality of our activities, the quality of our thoughts, the quality of our ability to be with others, and then we get a kind of satisfaction that is, it's inconceivable, actually. But it's possible to become completely satisfied in such a way that even when we don't feel satisfied, it's for more of the same. The only dissatisfaction the devotee has is he wants to be able to serve Krishna more and better, and in that way there's an ongoing growth and an ongoing feeling of satisfaction that never stops. That's what we're actually looking for. Yes, please, Dr. G.
What is the difference between the quality of love experienced by meditators who meditate on
form of Krishna and the Bhagavan form of Krishna?
The Brahman, the devotees who are meditating on Brahman, are experiencing 2 out of 3 of the original features of God. They get a sense of satisfaction or enlightenment or pleasure from being freed from the material laws of nature, being freed from ignorance and passion and material goodness. So there's a sense of liberation, there's a sense of bliss that comes from that. It's a relief. But they don't get ananda. When one associates directly with the form of the source of that Brahman effulgence, then there's an active flow of devotional, loving service between the soul and the Supreme Soul. Therefore, that it's just like, okay, enough of this family stuff, enough of this business, enough of this, and you go to the forest and you just go into a cave and you say, oh, and you just stay there and you're away from all those things and you feel good. But you can't stay there forever, because the soul is active by nature, first of all, and the soul is social, second of all, So we need, all of us, we're social beings by nature. We're from the spiritual world, and in the spiritual world there are social activities, there are relationships, there are loving exchanges, there's playfulness, there's activity, there's everything. That makes us complete. But if you're just in the Brahman, without activity, without knowledge and activity, but with a sense or an experience of our eternal nature, yes, there's great pleasure from that, greater than any other material pleasure, but it doesn't satisfy the soul completely, because the soul by nature is Sat Chit Ananda. So in Brahman effulgence, you experience the Sat feature of Krishna. The Brahman is Krishna, but it's Krishna, effulgence of Krishna. It's like seeing something from a great distance instead of being right, next to it.
But then why is there a difference that devotees who meditate upon the Brahman form? I have so many friends. They are very calm, peaceful. I have never seen them getting angry. And I have so many devotee friends who can get angry for very simple things. And I would see them very, very restless at times and not happy chanting the holy name. But rather, shouldn't it be reverse?
No, it means that they're neophytes. A real devotee doesn't get angry like that. If they do, it's in service. If they get anxious or they desirous of something, it's for want of more Krishna consciousness, or want of more. But neophytes, yeah, they get angry, in a mundane way. I mean, Prabhupada sometimes got very angry, but he never got angry in losing control of his anger. His anger and his sense of humor and his work ethic and everything that he did was transcendental. You could see it, Well, we could see it, but it was perceivable by the effect. Anyone who came around him also became elevated. So our goal isn't to become peaceful. If you think the goal is to become peaceful, and if somebody's not just peaceful and neutral, then he's not advanced, or he hasn't reached the goal, or something like that. It's not like that. The absolute truth is full of variegatedness. There's one purport, if I can find it. I'll try to find it and read it to you, okay? That explains this concept nicely. Okay, 37, 38, right? That's. I'm just saying. Remember that. Oh, you are. It's on there. Okay. Okay. Now I have to find this. What I'm looking for. Just give me a second. A very good question, by the way. Thank you. All right. 16. Siddhartha Goswami, Volume 3. Chapter 5. 200. $20. I'm almost there. Mm-hmm. 22. Yeah. It is a misunderstanding to think that because there is always another level of perfection to achieve, one can never reach the supreme goal of life. What the progressive development of prema, or love for God, shows is not that there is no goal, but that in spiritual life there is endless variety. Pure love for the lotus feet of Sri Gopinath, the fruit one achieves by pure love for the lotus feet of Sri Gopinath, the fruit one achieves is the attainment of Sri Goloka. By that attainment, the direct sight of Sri Gopinath. By that direct vision, his special mercy. By that mercy, the highest ecstasies of Viraha Bhav, and so on. Thus, endless sequence is not a fault, but simply the unfolding of spiritual variety. Even in Vaikuntha, what to speak of Goloka, the bliss of devotional service unfolds in an infinite variety that puts the happiness of liberation to shame. So the happiness of liberation is only an infinitesimal drop of the emotion and satisfaction that comes in an ongoing devotional, loving relationship with Krishna. The devotees you're talking about are neophytes. They're not achieving love of God. The symptoms of those who have achieved love of God is that they know that God, Krishna, is more pleased when they serve his devotees than when they serve him. So the neophytes will serve the deity, and they won't be able to see God in the hearts of others, and they won't know how to behave with other living beings. They only know how to behave with the deity. That's called Kanishta Adhikari. And they're subject to still the influence of material nature. So you shouldn't become discouraged because you see devotees that are still influenced by the material nature, and those persons that you see that are meditating on Brahman are completely placid and, peaceful.
So
search out those who don't get angry with those things. That's very rare souls. If you want the real thing, you have to go to the souls that don't just get angry in the drop of the hat, or because they don't get what they want, or they're dissatisfied, and all those things. But those who are actually experiencing the presence of Krishna, when they chant Hare Krishna, when they hear about Krishna. And then in the company of those devotees, then you become yourself transported and elevated to a level of satisfaction, even if it's only a shadow of what those persons are experiencing. You will taste something so real that it will become clear that you don't want to just be peaceful. You want to be with Krishna and Krishna's eternal associates. You can get that if you just read Chaitanya Charitamrita very carefully, with an open heart, with full faith, and without argument. Let those who have ears hear. That's the reality. But that's a lovely question. Thank you very much. Appreciate it very much. More? You got more?
I can.
Looks like you got
I
more.
was going to make a comment on it, just a reflection, if that's all right.
Dr. Patrick is going to make a reflection. Go ahead. Shoot.
In the purport to text 31, I really like the statement that he is the life and soul of all living entities. And Krishna is the life and soul of all living entities, and it just kind of makes it very easy to understand that he is the powerhouse of all of us, so he is the one to serve. That's true self-service, would be to serve him, because he gives us all the inspiration.
Wake up in the morning, how do we know what to do? You go into ignorance and you wake up in the morning, and then what? How do you know what to do? Who reminds us who we are? What we have to, get out of bed and go do this, and what our duties are, and all of those. Okay, with all of your permission, I'll close for tonight. Hare Krishna. It's time for me to record tomorrow morning. And Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premanandi. Tomorrow, Saturday, we'll see you at 4:30 p.m. Central Time, USA. Thank you very much for all of you attending. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol.